It definitely opens up a whole new world of possibilities. Like I know you talk about a lot using kettlebells to make women especially feel limitless. And your programming 100% does that because time and time again, you all of a sudden are hitting a new PR and then you're hitting a new weight and then you're hitting a new rep range and then you're like, holy shit, what you thought was possible, like it's just far beyond whatever you thought was possible, which is really crazy. So there really is no limit. It's like you just keep going and following the process and following the technique and fueling properly and being mindful of your body and stretching and doing all the things, and you're just going to keep fucking going.
Welcome to the Dangerous Women podcast, where the intersection of fierceness and femininity fuels empowerment. Our goal is to provide women with insights to unleash their power. Grounded in the 7 principles of self-confidence, we guide women to embrace their duality, delicate as a flower, yet powerful as a bomb. I'm your host, Colleen Conlon, inviting you to join me as we explore topics on health and wellness, empowering you to embody the essence of your dangerous woman. So Sarah, if you were to sum it up in a single sentence, who were you before Kettlebells and who have you since become?
Wow. Okay. So before kettlebells, I would say I was someone who was finding myself. Since bringing kettlebells into my life, I've liked to think I've become a smooth and savage queen who is much more confident in her body, in herself overall, and how she wants to grow through life.
Oh my gosh, I'm just like gushing over here hearing you say all of those things. Can you just kind of like paint a picture for the listeners? Like, who are you in a nutshell?
Yes. Okay, so I'm 36 years old, about to be 37 in June, which is crazy.
Woo-hoo.
Born and raised in Brooklyn. So there's like a fast-paced New York City nature about me. I'm the VP of marketing for a New York City-based tech startup. I've been there for almost a decade, which is crazy. I'm in a relationship with who I consider to be my soulmate. And I don't mean that in like a romantic way. I mean it in like a raw, vulnerable, we went through deep shit, but like are never going to give up on each other sort of way. He changed my life in many ways. And we've got 2 pit bulls, Nico and Lola, who you're very familiar with. They are the true loves of my life. They are in a lot of my kettlebell videos. I'm beyond obsessed with them. And one thing to know about me, which I'm sure we'll touch on, I love food. Specifically, I could eat pizza and drink margaritas for the rest of my life and be a happy camper.
You're stuck on an island. There's only 2 things that you get to eat for the rest of your life. Bing,
That's
bang,
it.
boom.
Pizza
Okay.
and marks. Yep.
Love it. Okay. Well, I think it's really safe to say, even for, people who don't know you, they're just hearing this like quick little snippet of you. Everything that you are, I think it's safe to say you already had the confidence. You already have this ability to be resilient in yourself. It almost seems like to me as the person who's helped to coach you over the past year, you know, it's not like you didn't have confidence. It's almost like over the past year, something just evolved. And I'm curious to kind of know, what do you think particularly evolved in you over this past year?
Yeah. So I was definitely always driven and resilient. I would say the confidence was fleeting. All I knew, at least subconsciously, was that as an adult, I wanted to have more stability in my life than what I had had as a child, whether that was in my relationships, in my finances, in my work. And that need for stability is really where my drive and resilience came from. And that's fueled like my personal why, which is to find environments without ceiling. So I have the space to push my limits and take control of my future. And that taking control aspect has been a way for me to create stability. And since I know this podcast covers like the balance between masculine and the feminine, it's important to note that it was my masculine side driving the level of success that I experienced. I've always been go, 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 get shit done. I've built those characteristics up over the years, but I've realized over time with kettlebells, with therapy, that only gets you so far. The feminine is something I didn't start tapping into until the past few years with those practices. And, it's programmed in me that vulnerability is weakness, right? And I'm learning that's actually a strength. Slowing down, being a little softer, because it helps build relationships and trust with others and also with yourself. That is so important for being successful. When you have walls up and blinders on and you're running a million miles an hour, it's difficult to relate, to influence other human beings, to push your own limits and grow. So I would say that's a big way in which I've evolved over this past year.
And it's so cool to think that, you know, I don't think it's fair to say like it just changed because like you picked up a fucking kettlebell, right? Like that's not it. But over the past year there's been different opportunities. I think you would agree that have come out through some of the work that we've done with the kettlebell that help to support not just the masculine but the feminine. And I wouldn't necessarily say any of that was like a huge component of swing to snatch unless maybe you think otherwise, but I think the time that you've been in black and gold when we play with like the embodiment practices or thinking about the I'm this, I'm that are ways that like that piece has been able to come out here and there.
Yeah, yeah, like black and gold is really what made me, I think, aware of this masculine, more consciously aware of the masculine versus feminine. Like when I talked about feeling like this smooth and savage queen, smooth and savage, those are like the masculine and feminine, well, the feminine and masculine words that I come back to a lot in the practices that we do together. And no, it's not just like kettlebells that have influenced that, but like our the fact that I'm practicing in this community multiple times a week and reminding myself of like what it means to be smooth versus savage, how it feels, how that trickles into other aspects of your life is what has helped me grow into those things.
Mm. For anybody who's listening to this right now, I want to give you a little bit of context. So, in Swing to Snatch, a 13-week kettlebell intensive, which is where Sarah got started with me, it's very much, I would say, anybody who's into like talking about the masculine and the feminine, it is super masculine in the sense that we are learning how to basically speak the language of hardstyle kettlebell technique. It's very structured, it's very logical. There's not a whole lot of room to really be. It's very much to do. However, there are opportunities where we are tapping into some of those softer pieces, whether it be, just checking in with ourselves, checking in with the team, finding the wins, finding areas where you can give yourself grace. It's in those parts where I would say more of the softness comes in. But then when we go into black and gold, it's like, no, 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 no. We know how to train this way. So now it's an opportunity while we're training to tap into moments where we can be a little bit more masculine and times where we can be a little bit more feminine. And all of that comes from not the kettlebell per se, but how the kettlebell coaching is being driven through through myself. And a lot of that comes from being in other situations, working with other coaches, not necessarily within the kettlebell space, but who have brought attention and have shed light that it is so important for us to be able to embrace the masculine and the feminine. And Sarah, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, and this is definitely like going to take a little bit of a pivot from just talking about your past year, but I find being a business woman, it can be really hard to get out of the masculine at times and just like be in the feminine.
It
Can you?
is. It is. I think about that daily. So I mentioned I run marketing for a tech startup. I have a team, there's about like 14 people collectively that report into me, four of them that report directly into me. And funny enough, they're all women. So it's I feel like there's a cool bond you have there. But so take those individuals. If I was not open with them about the softer feminine things about my insecurities and imperfections, if I did not take the time to listen to them and their motivations, these things that are typically like feminine characteristics, they would not be as trusting in how I guide and grow them. They would not feel comfortable being honest and failing if I did not create an environment where it's safe and okay to do so amidst the typical masculine go, 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 do, get shit done. Like you have to find that balance because if you don't fail and you don't have that safe space, you don't grow. And being okay with failing requires feminine traits like vulnerability that I think are the is the unlock for any leader in any business. Um, I I have a leadership coach. She is actually who introduced me to you and kettlebells. But we talk a lot about when you get to a VP level or a C-suite level, the unlock is always, always, always like breaking down some sort of vulnerability barrier. And that comes with balancing the masculine and the feminine. And it's just so crazy how so many people make it to a certain level without having built those skills and then they hit a plateau. So
Mm.
it's all very interesting to me.
Ooh. Well, I think there's actually some pieces there that we're gonna be able to talk about in what you experienced over the past year. Because learning how to use kettlebells, nobody's perfect day one. There's a lot of fails that happen, but in order to fly, you have to be okay with failing. So let's pivot back to what life was like for you before kettlebells from a fitness standpoint. So, what type of workouts were you doing before kettlebells, and what were your fitness goals?
Yes. So my workouts were super like all or nothing. I was a Barry's boot camp girly because it was such an adrenaline rush. I loved the music. I loved the dark room. It was like that embodiment of like masculine energy, go, 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 like just fucking crush it. And
There's
I
also
would,
something like so fucking sexy about the Barry's boot camp environment, like those red lights.
yes, it is. And it's like, it hits like all of like your dopamine receptors. So
Yes.
it's addicting. And, at the time I was living in Manhattan, I was going about 4 times a week, and really my goal was, like, being lean and toned, like most women,
Yeah.
and what it came down like, I didn't realize this until after the fact, until I started training with you, but, like, how tired I was when I was doing those workouts, how I wasn't fueling properly with food, how often I tweaked my body because I wasn't, like, stretching properly, and looking back even at my body, like, I burned a lot of fat, but I had very little muscle, so I wouldn't say I was, like, necessarily strong, so training with kettlebells just kind of changed my whole perception on what I wanted. And yeah, it was quite a transition.
And I can agree with you so much on that. Like, one of the main reasons why I was so excited to bring you on for this first episode is because your story resonates with my story a lot from the perspective of, that group fitness background. Like, I would refer to myself as a prior group fitness junkie. There's something so addicting about being in a big room with loud music, lots of people, lots of sweat, where you literally feel like I am like giving blood, sweat, and tears in
Yeah.
this workout. But also, there's like for me, it was so frustrating because my goal, like yours, was I want to be lean, I want to be toned. And I felt like I just wasn't getting the results that I saw other women getting. But I definitely did not realize what types of workouts the other women were doing that actually had the physique that I wanted.
Yep. 100%.
So, why did you decide to try kettlebells in that case?
Yeah, so going back to my leadership coach turned friend, Jenna, who trains with you.
Shout out to Jenna. We love you
I
so
love Jenna.
much. You're awesome.
She had been talking about her kettlebell training to me for like a good year or so. And I followed her on Instagram. I eventually started following you on Instagram because I just became very curious because what she was doing, she seemed like she was doing crazy, what seemed like crazy things with heavy weights, and she looked so damn strong. And her and I just have, a lot of similarities in our goals and the way we think, like similar lifestyles and way of thinking. So I trusted her judgment, and I knew it was something I wanted to just like keep an eye on. And what had happened was, so at this point, I'd already moved away from the city. I wasn't doing Barry's boot camp anymore. I had moved to New Jersey. I ended up getting like a Peloton treadmill because I wanted to replicate like that Barry's boot camp style workout at home. This is like post COVID, so I didn't feel like going into a gym or anything like that. And I'd done the Peloton tread classes, Barry's boot camp type classes for a year. And I just hit a plateau. I was just it just wasn't doing it for me. I wasn't hitting my fitness goals. I wasn't happy with my body. And I was just like, fuck it. I'm gonna try swing to snatch. I've been watching you guys for basically a year at that point, and it was such a pivotal decision. And but yeah, like it was great. I was so happy that like Jenna kind of was this like little like girl on my shoulder, just like not letting me forget about it. She was never pushy about it, but it was always in the back of my mind, and that's how I started swing to snatch.
I love that. And I'm so happy that it was something that really came from you because, Swing to Snatch, a 13-week kettlebell intensive, it is intense. And I think when people come into that environment, it really needs to be something that feels like, okay, I'm ready to do something intense. I'm ready to try something new. Because I think if you aren't doing something that's really coming from what you want, it can be really easy to give up when the going gets tough, and it gets pretty tough in there pretty quick. And I'm curious to kind of just like get your take on swing to snatch as a whole. So, over the past year, over the past year, you spent 13 weeks in swing to snatch, a 13-week kettlebell intensive. You did, I'm going to count it as you've done 3 rounds of black and gold at this point.
Yeah.
We did do like a little side piece with some partner training, but I definitely consider you to be somebody who fully understands what is going down in black and gold, what's different between black and gold and swing to snatch. And then you also started working with Hillary, who is the registered dietitian that I also work with, who is amazing for so many reasons. So I kind of want to just like pivot into that whole world starting in chronological order. Swing to snatch. What was that like for you those 13 weeks as you were learning how to train hardstyle kettlebell technique?
Yeah, swing to snatch was humbling for like first and foremost. To go into something that you have little to no experience in and learn it from scratch, you kind of feel like you're a child again, and like you're taking your first steps. And the best thing about it is that you are so meticulous in how you train us against the technique that you if you follow your program and we take your cues and you take the full advantage of like sending in videos for feedback and training consistently week over week, you just develop such a crazy foundation for being able to do what seems like really crazy shit in the black and gold programs.
What are,
And
what are these like crazy things? So somebody who's listening to this right now, especially somebody who's listening to this who's like, yeah, I get the whole berries thing. Like I'm a berries bitch. I'm like a Peloton princess. Like what is a crazy kettlebell
yeah.
thing?
Okay, so crazy to me is thinking like I can do a Turkish get up with almost 50 pounds over my head. So that means you're holding a kettlebell almost 50 pounds above your head for like a good 30 seconds and not dropping it. And you're moving with it. Like that's absolutely, if you told me like you did tell me at the beginning of Swing to Snatch, like you will be able to do this at some point. And I was like, okay, golly. And I and I fucking did it. that swinging 100 pounds of weight. So I'm like 116 pounds. So to swing almost my body weight
That's
and
insane.
fucking enjoy it, like that. So talk about smooth and savage. Like swinging 100 pounds is smooth and savage.
And Sarah can do it well. So, Sarah, I believe you had told me at some point, like swinging the kettlebell and swing to snatch, you had swung a kettlebell
Yes.
before.
Yes.
So, what's the difference between what you were doing for swings before and what you learned in swing to snatch in
Yeah.
order to be able to swing 100 pounds?
Yeah. So this is where like the swing to snatch technique training is so important. When you're swinging, there's like 7 different things you need to be doing with your body at the same time to be doing it correctly and efficiently with the right tension. When I first learned that, it was like, okay, you go up and you go down. You go up and you go down. And maybe you squeeze your butt. Like there was none of that. In swing to snatch, you're learning, and maybe it's not exactly 7, but I feel like it's like 5 to 7
It's a
things
lot. It's a lot.
in your head. But so you're learning how to do that, and you're programming as much as you can into muscle memory so that eventually you're only focusing on like 1 or 2 technique cues to just get it really smooth and efficient and strong and do heavier weight. And that's like the biggest difference between honestly any kind of training I had done versus kettlebells. And I love that mental aspect too, because I get the go, go, go vibes that I craved from Barry's boot camp, but I also get this very thoughtful thing where I can't think about anything else but those cues in that moment. And for me to be able to turn off my brain from other thoughts and distractions for someone who's go, go, go and like slow down in my head is a really cool juxtaposition that I absolutely love about kettlebells. And like you get that really, really strong foundation and swing to snatch so that you go from like learning the thing to training the thing and making it better and stronger with heavier weights in things like black and gold.
And would you say, so like the way I would describe swing to snatch to somebody is like we're learning, and in black and gold, we're training. And I don't want anyone to think that while I'm in swing to snatch, I'm just learning, like I'm not working out. You are totally working out. So Sarah,
100%.
Sarah, can you like can you talk to that? Like what does it mean to be learning while being in swing to snatch? Are you working out? What did it feel like for you?
You're totally working out in swing to snatch. I would say like the first couple of weeks is a little bit lighter of a workout because you're kind of just like learning the technique and the moves and how to move your body. And it gradually gets more and more intense and you're sore. You're definitely getting sore. You're like you're moving your body in different ways. You're breaking down muscle and building it up again. And when you go into black and gold, it's just a whole another level because you know the skill now. And now I think I would describe it as you have more control over the level of intensity of the workout in black and gold because you know the skills. So you could dial up and dial down, whether that's in like reps or weight depending on your goals. But swing to snatch 100% is still a workout.
What would life be like if you could get that toned look? You could have physical superhuman strength by training with just 2 kettlebells at home. What would happen if you were on a program that strengthens self-awareness and courage so that you can develop a deeper connection and trust to self? What about this? What if you could be in a community with other women where you are encouraged to be assertive and resilient to build mental and physical strength? If you're waiting to hear what the offer is, this is it. Swing to Snatch, a 13-week kettlebell intensive, is my signature course that empowers women to get started with kettlebells. Work with me live in a virtual container guaranteed to grant you kettlebell queen status. To learn more, visit www.colleenconlon.com. I think something for the listeners to hear is in black and gold, you're not learning anything the way you're learning in swing to snatch. To Sarah's point, there's such a heavy focus on just like hardwiring these patterns and pathways into your body. So once we're in black and gold, we don't have to talk about that. We can talk about things like masculine and feminine energy and embodying different pieces. So when you come into these workouts, like you don't have to worry about, am I doing this right? We can now kind of let our body go on autopilot and we can get more out of the mental aspect if you're willing to go there.
Yes, 100%.
What would you say, like, the biggest lesson or the biggest takeaway from swing to snatch was as a whole for you?
Oh,
Or top three, if it's
there's
too
so
hard.
there's so many. I
Okay.
think patience and trusting the process is definitely one of the biggest ones, especially when in swing to snatch when you're learning new stuff, and it can be frustrating when you're not getting it, when it's not flowing yet, especially for me. I feel like I am someone who I learn things pretty quickly, and then I can start training pretty quickly, what in whatever aspect of life. So for something to take me a little longer than usual can be frustrating. But I also think too, and this is like kind of a part two bullet to the patience and trusting, but like if you have the opportunity to bring in experts, do it. It is so much easier and more effective than doing something on your own, whether that's training or nutrition. There are and even like Jolene, my partner in Swing to Snatch, who's in black and gold, she had even talked about um how she had to like relearn things. And you could try and teach yourself things with videos on the internet, but it only gets you so far. Or when I started working with Hillary for nutrition, I had no idea about like how food was affecting my body and things like that. So if you have the opportunity, bring in the experts and trust the process, because the programming especially that you build, you get results from, because you understand the progression of how you move from a phase like learning to training and then building upon that training. So for example, for me, I went from wanting to cut fat with Hillary to now growing muscle with heavier weights, and you built programming around that. So by the end of the 8, 12, whatever weeks, it's like, whoa, my ass is popping more than it was. And holy shit, look at my shoulders. And just trusting that process and having patience with the experts is so huge. And it releases a lot of that mental load with you having to figure it out yourself.
Thank you so much for saying all of that. I am also a huge believer that you just need to ask for help. And I think that sometimes is seen as a weakness as well. But if you're willing to ask for help and like ask the right person for help, like the person you trust, you know them, you like them, you're just going to get so much further ahead. And if you do that, like, is it possible that maybe everything you've been wanting could just be a part of your reality and then you can move even further ahead of whatever it is you're trying to go after?
Absolutely. It definitely opens up a whole new world of possibilities. Like I know you talk about a lot using kettlebells to make women especially feel limitless. And your programming 100% does that, because time and time again, you all of a sudden are hitting a new PR, and then you're hitting a new weight, and then you're hitting a new rep range, and then you're like, holy shit, what you thought was possible, like it's just far beyond whatever you thought was possible, which is really crazy. So there really is no limit. It's like you just keep going and following the process, and following the technique and fueling properly and being mindful of your body and stretching and doing all the things, and you're just going to keep fucking going, which is so exciting for me. Like going back to my personal why, finding those environments without ceilings, like, yeah, fucking kettlebells. This is like, you're stuck with me for life, Colleen.
I love it. I mean, this is a space where you can truly just show up and surprise yourself.
Yes.
Sarah, can you tell us what happened after Swing to Snatch?
So, okay, so immediately first of all, I fell in love with the community. My swing to snatch class was just me and another woman, Jolene, who I absolutely love.
We love
Um,
you, Jolene.
we love Jolene, and her and I basically went through like the next three black and gold cycles together because we loved the environment. We loved having a program that we could stick to that allowed us to hit our goals. We love the fact that we trained together on Saturday mornings, and it was like a space where we could push each other and have hard conversations and just be there for one another. Some of us went through like heavy shit in those programs, and having an anchor of this community was just it was just that. It was an anchor, something to ground you amidst whatever else any of us were going through, and reminded us that it was just a moment in time and you're going to get through it, and you're going to go past the limit that you didn't think was possible, and you get to keep going. So what am I in my third or fourth black and gold cycle right
You're in your
now?
third. You're in your third.
My third. Um, and this is my favorite one, by the way, because it's like heavy swings, heavy ballistics, which is like where I really can like tap into like my smooth and savage energy. So yeah, that's what happened after swing to snatch. I just kept going. A year later, here I am.
And it's been amazing. Can you give us a little bit of a reference point in terms of strength? How has your body gotten stronger? So before, okay, so I'm going to paint the first part. Before swing to snatch, like the whole goal of swing to snatch is that you can perform the big six, which are a squat, a strict press, a clean, a swing, a Turkish get up, and a snatch with your testing size bell by the end of the 13 weeks. So, testing size bell is a weight based on your age, your weight, and your gender. And Sarah, I believe your testing size was the 12 kilo at the time. Okay,
Yep.
so roughly 25 pounds. So, at the end of swing to snatch, Sarah could do all of that. Plus, you could do some of those things with 8 kilos heavier.
Yeah. So at the end of swing to snatch is when I did my first 20 kg Turkish get up, which I thought was going to be impossible. I think I did a clean with that same
You did.
it,
You could squat it, you could swing it.
swatted. I could swing it. I don't know if I had hit the snatch yet, but that was like a fast follow in the next black and gold cycle with a 20.
Yeah. So then, since then, where are all of your big six skills? Like, what kind of weight can you play with for those pieces at this point?
Yeah, so I'm still in like the 20 kg range for my Turkish getup. That's definitely more, I think, of a mental thing. I have a 24 kg that's like staring me in the face that I need to try at some point. With this programming, I think I can get to it. So
I think
this
so
is
too.
another thing too. It's like getting your mental bullshit out of the way so you can just go and do something hard. And I'm single arm swinging with a 24 kg, so that I think is over 50 pounds. I double swing with 100 pounds. Snatching, I can do many reps in a row confidently with a 20. It's it's just I get to play around a lot more. And yeah, I'm doing a ton of squats. We're doing a lot of swings right now. So I would say
I saw this past year double 16s for your squat, double 16s, 32 kilos for your front squat.
yes.
That's
And
huge.
deadlifts are rough, but I'm double belling it for those where it's like I've got a 20 and a 16 and like maybe a 16 and a 12. So it's a lot of weight.
It's a lot of weight. So if we go back, like, what kind of weight were you using in berries?
Oh God. Like I don't think I used anything heavier than like a 20-pound dumbbell. Like
Yeah.
two 20-pound dumbbell, two, maybe 25. I was squatting with like 50 pounds, maybe.
Yeah. So and and berries was hard, right?
Yeah.
Like I think any of us could go into a berries boot camp class like right now, go all out and be like that was fucking hard.
Yes.
But there's a difference between I'm doing something hard and I'm doing something that's going to get me stronger.
Yeah. Yes. And it's funny, it kind of sneakily shows up where it's like, for example, so my two pit bulls, they get frozen food delivered every couple of weeks, and those boxes are fucking heavy. And I would dread like bringing them in the house up the stairs, throwing them in our extra freezer, and I would have to be very careful to like not tweak my back lifting it. Now I could freaking lift that shit up like it's no problem. Like you talk about being able to just like farmers carry groceries, like you feel the difference. We're like, oh, this is so it shows up in everyday life, just like really sneakily, where all of a sudden these mundane things become like, whoa, I am strong.
That is amazing. And I love that you say that because that really is it. It's sneaky. It's a sneaky way to train to just be so freaking strong in life.
Hmm.
And then I think we could do a whole episode. Maybe we should do a whole episode between like what it's like working with Hillary, but can you just kind of like scratch the surface? What has that been like to bring in a registered dietitian in the midst of beginning your strength training journey?
Yeah. It was really hard at first and like very foreign to me. I have always been someone I just eat what I want. I thought I was eating healthy because I was eating balanced. I had like this Mediterranean diet, so it's like olive oil and tomatoes and cheese and whatever. But really what prompted me to work with Hillary is that, I was doing all of this training and I was leaning out and I was building muscle, but I still was looking in the mirror and wasn't like happy with what I saw. I knew nutrition was part of it. I knew I wasn't really doing everything I could be doing to hit my goals, and I was always struggling with the balance of like, oh, you just have to accept your body for who you are and love it and whatever. But it's also was like, yeah, but also do what you can within healthy, reasonable means to hit your goal. If you have a goal, it's okay if you want to be more lean. So
Absolutely. You
yeah,
can love your body for where it's at and still want it to change. It is absolutely fine to have goals, want to change your body, and still love your body for where it's at.
yes. And that I finally gave myself, I think, permission to find that balance. And I knew food was the thing that was going to change me as far as like leaning myself out in a healthy way. And so that's when I sought out Hillary. And at the time, I think you were going through a deficit with her, which was the direction I wanted to go into lean out body fat. So like seeing you do it and hearing about your journey, I was like, okay, let me talk to Hillary and see what that was all about. And it is a big transition to not thinking about food and what you're putting in your mouth to literally basically tracking everything you are putting in your mouth. But it was so important. It was so enlightening, so educating to understand like what are macros, like protein, fats, carbs, like your calories. Like I didn't even know what the hell that shit was. But and knowing that it's like you do have to bring down calories if you want to cut fat. And you need to do that for an extended period of time. So her and I built a plan where I went into a calorie deficit for a couple of months, and we made it so it was manageable, where it wasn't super strict. I wasn't cutting out things I loved. Like Matt and I get pizza every Friday night. I was still eating pizza every Friday night. I probably wasn't having as many slices, but I was still eating pizza. Every once in a while, I would still have a drink. Was I drinking less alcohol? Yes, I was. But it was manageable enough, and I started to shed weight. And I think collectively I lost over like a few, like 3 or 4 months, I lost like 7-ish, like 6 or 7 pounds of fat. And of course, like it would leave in places like my ass where I didn't want it to leave, but mostly I wanted to lean out my stomach, and it worked. And it got to the point where it's like we could have kept going. But I said to Hillary, hey, like I'm feeling like I'm getting too skinny. Like I would love to lean out a little bit more in my midsection, but I'm feeling like I'm getting too skinny everywhere else. Let's stop. Let's focus on maintenance and like seeing what muscle I can build. And then maybe we can go back to like a deficit later. So just that going back to my why and like having control over my future, that education and having like a coach who can keep me accountable and put me on a plan gave me more control over what I could do with my body. And now I actually look in the mirror and I feel good about myself. I am not picking myself apart because I have done things in a healthy way, both mentally and physically, to hit certain goals. And I look at myself in the mirror and I see the whole picture now instead of like little bits of it. And I look and I'm like, you look fucking strong, Sarah. And that is, I've never, ever, ever felt that way in my life. And being just a naturally slim and skinny person, people think I'm crazy when I say this shit, but like, doesn't matter what size you are. Most women experience some sort of dysmorphia or picking their body apart. So to be able to have that confidence is life changing. And the knowledge and to know that I can shift at any point. Like I know you're actually building muscle and you're gaining weight, which is something you're talking about in the community. It's so empowering. You can fucking do whichever one you want based on your period of life and where you want to go. And Hillary's been amazing because she matches like your style. And she's like, do you want a fucking hype woman this week? Or do you want like a compassionate coach? Do you want someone to lay the smack down and the reality on you that you're not holding yourself accountable? Or do you need some just like softer, like love this week? So that's been really, really great and empowering. I was at a women's conference last week in our industry, and I was talking all about this with folks who are like thinking about it. So I'm channeling my inner Jenna to just like put feelers out there, but not push anyone because they need to want to do these things on their own. But
Wait
I'm
a second.
I need to do this.
How incredible do you think your life would just be if every single woman you knew was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna be a kettlebell queen and I'm gonna like do all this stuff?
Oh my God. I'm like every lady in my life, I'm like, you need to do this. Like, just, you need to, but I have to, soft sell, right? Like,
No. But like, let's just play the hypothetical for a second. What if every single woman that you encountered, work, personal life, your mom, Matt's mom, like, what if everybody actually did it? Like, what if this was the, quote unquote, normal way that women just train and see themselves? Like, what would your life look like?
oh my God, it would be so much more positive and just confident. Like when to have everyone around you build that sort of confidence and strength, it just changes the narrative in the collective narrative in our heads and the types of conversations we have. And it just shifts from like the should have, would have, could have to look what I did. And like, I hit this other goal and like, holy shit, that's great. I love that you're doing that. I can't wait to try it. It's just like so empowering.
Yes, I think
So
that's like the perfect word. It's empowering. Ugh,
absolutely.
I have chills right now. Okay.
It's amazing.
I would love to spend more time talking about Swing to Snatch, Black and Gold, and your work with Hillary, but we might have to do like a whole separate call, like bringing you back to talk more about that stuff. But can you sum it up for us? Do you feel like your training now with the kettlebells has any type of a different representation of how you show up in other areas of your life outside of the gym?
Oh yeah. It's given me more confidence overall, and it's just constantly forcing me to be patient. It allows me to show up to my relationship, my work, my family with just more perspective and being more intentional. And I honestly just wish I found it sooner. But who knows? Everything happens for a reason, right? Maybe if I found this 10 years ago in my 20s, it would hit different, right? I was at a different point in my life. So yeah.
For anyone who's listening to this right now, who might share our shared background in regards to, the berries, the Pelotons, the group fitness classes, who's down to really go hard and is feeling inspired by your story, who's considering maybe kettlebell queen, like that sounds good. That sounds like something I want to try on. What would you like to tell them specifically?
Just go and try Swing to Snatch. Like, it is 13 weeks of your life. I can almost guarantee you won't regret it. And for me, it's been one of the best investments I've made in myself. And if you don't like it, cool. Like you met some cool people, but I think that it would be a very rare occurrence. It is just so impactful.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for listening to the Dangerous Women podcast. If you had any groundbreaking takeaways from today's episode, please tag us on social at The Dangerous Women Podcast. To make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe below.